Hey guys, it's Leo with the Dreaming Tree, and in this video we're going to put together our Valentine centerpiece, which I have here in front of me. And as you can see, it's a good size and it's fairly simple to put together. It'd be great for a centerpiece at your Valentine's Day dinner, or even at a wedding, at like the center table, or even a wedding shower, a girl's birthday. So many potential uses for this, and it definitely catches your attention and is not that difficult to put together. It's takes a little bit of time, but I'm going to walk you through it step by step here. So I have all my pieces here, and let's get started. Okay, so the assembly of this, we're going to actually take it in two steps. We're going to work on the main heart structure first, and then we'll put together the base, and then we'll join everything together once we're all done. So you'll notice here that we have a total of 4 pieces that look like this, that have the little score marks here with another half here. And then there are 4 pieces that look like this. And your first task is going to be simply to join all of these together. And then once we're done with that, we're going to glue these back to back to form the hemispheres, so to speak, of our piece. So you're basically going to repeat this process 4 times. And as you can see here, what we're doing is we're overlapping this so that it fits flush. And you can use the little hole here as a guide. Also focus on these curves here and here, just to make sure that you've got everything aligned perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and put glue on this piece here. There we go. And it helps. I really used my table a lot while I did this, just to give me the necessary leverage, and just kind of helps me control everything a lot better. Okay, so kind of like that. Okay, so you want to go ahead and repeat that 3 more times with the remaining pieces. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so I have all 4 of these glued together, okay? And while we still have this thing flat, what I want to do is add these little accent pieces. Now let me just get rid of all of these but one, so I can show you my little technique that I figured out when I did this a number of times. And as you can see, the curve here at the bottom is flush with the inner curve here. So as long as you have these lined up, you know you have it in the right place. And what I did was I used the bottom as kind of a guide here. You want to make sure that this line, what you want to do is make sure that the line on this darker pink is parallel to this little score line here, so that you know that you have it in the right place. And then just kind of run your finger along this edge here and make sure that you have it nice and flush against the rest of the piece, okay? And we're just going to get this glued down. You're going to repeat this process on both sides for all 4 of these pieces, okay? So let me kind of show you what I did, because there are a lot of details on this piece, and chances of you being able to glue all this down in one fell swoop are slim to none. So what I did was I just kind of worked in sections, and because this is a large piece, you can kind of pull it up and apply more glue as you go. So I just kind of did a little segment like that. And the reason I'm doing this is because I feel like if you do it in segments here, you have a better success rate of actually getting this on there perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get that in place. And before it really takes hold, kind of eyeball this little curve here and make sure that it is nice and flush before you push down and let it set. Okay. Okay, so I've got like the bottom third of this in place, and then what I did was I kind of put my hand down here just to make sure that as I pull this back up to apply more glue, I'm not peeling back the part that I already glued down. And then I'm just going to continue to apply glue to these little sections here. And I'll probably do another third or so. Make sure that you're getting your glue out to the edge as best as you can. Okay, if you feel like you can do this in one shot, by all means, give it a go. But I just wanted to make sure that none of this would come apart at all. So I just did it in little segments. So that's completely up to you. I'm just kind of sharing with you what I learned through the process of doing this for the version that you saw on the website. So I'm going to go ahead and just complete that. Get the rest of this glued down. Okay. And I did a pretty good job. So you've got that. Again, there's 4 of these, so you're going to repeat this process on both sides. There are versions of this that cut this way, okay, and that's going to go here. So go ahead and do that for all 4 pieces. There's a total of 8 of these, and then I will meet you at the next step. Okay, so we have all 4 pieces put together. Now, while this thing is still flat, I'm going to suggest that you also apply these pieces that go right here, okay? And again, just focus on making sure that you've got everything nice and aligned and these edges are nice and flush, okay? So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back of these. And there's also another piece that goes on top of this, but I don't want you to do that just yet. We're going to save that for once this element is all put together before we do that, because that's actually going to help keep this thing open properly. Okay, so just get that glued into place, and then do the other side like that. Okay, and you're going to repeat that process for all 4 of these. Okay, so you'll have hearts that go on top there. Okay, so I don't need to show you that. It's pretty straightforward. And at this point, we can go ahead and begin putting this together, okay? And really all we're doing is gluing these back to back like this, okay? So we're just gonna make sure that everything is nice and aligned here, and we're gonna glue these all back to back. So let me do one here, and I'll kind of share with you what I learned while I was going through this process. Now, again, there are some nooks and crannies here, some details that if you don't go fast enough with your glue, it may dry out. So what I did was I began putting down a nice thin line of glue along the main structure here, and then I quickly just kind of went through and filled in all of these little gaps here like that. And kind of like we did with the panel, that darker pink panel on the front, if you want to do this in little segments, you totally can. Just make sure you don't put glue on this tabbed scored area or beyond the tabbed scored area. So grab a mirrored piece and go ahead and glue it on like so. Just kind of run your hand down, making sure that everything is nicely aligned, and then push down, making sure that it grabs. And now you can see here, we've got these back to back, okay? Now, just kind of analyze this piece and make sure that everything has grabbed nicely. If this middle piece, this middle section here, you feel if it doesn't have enough glue, you can go ahead and just kind of touch it up a little bit, okay? So I did have glue there, but again, it's kind of where I started, and the glue started to dry, so it didn't get the best hold. So go ahead and just kind of tweak things as you go, making sure that everything's got a really good grip. So there you go. So now we've got almost half of this thing put together, and kind of work on it like a book, okay? And we can grab our next piece here, okay, and just lay it on its side, and we're going to glue this piece together, okay? So I'm going to do the same exact thing there, And it really helps to make sure that you get glue out to the edges, especially in this little center area. Okay, and then I'm going to put glue on the inside. Don't go past the score line, and then work your way around and inside all of these little details here. If you have spray glue and want to use spray glue, that might work, but because there's so many layers to this, I'm afraid that it might kind of penetrate beyond the area that you're working on and maybe cause a gluey mess on some of the other elements. So kind of don't want that. Best thing to do is just take your time and use your glue to ensure that this thing gets a really good hold. Okay, so there we go. That looks good to me. And I'm just kind of pushing down, taking advantage of the fact that we can work on this while it's still flat. Okay, so you can see what we're doing here. We're just kind of going back and forth, gluing things back to back. And I'm going to flip this one over again. And I'm going to just do the same exact thing. So go ahead and glue this to this, and then we're going to finish this thing up by joining it all together. So go ahead and get this glued in, and I will meet you on the tail end of this, where we'll go ahead and complete the assembly. Okay, so as you can see here, we have all of these back to back with the exception of these last two here. And I'm going to flip this one over just so that we have the same amount of pieces on both sides, just to make this last part easier. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're just going to glue these last two panels together, or last two segments, I should say. So we're just really doing the same exact thing we did before. And I'm going to put glue in the middle of this, and then kind of work my way around all these little nooks and crannies here. And we'll go ahead and close this thing up, just like that. Just make sure that everything's nice and aligned. Just focus on these little tiny cutouts here, and make sure that everything is nice and precise. Okay. All right, so that is pretty much it for this. Now, as you can see, when we go ahead and spread it out, we have all four segments. Now, one thing that I didn't have you do, and actually we're gonna hold off on putting the little accent piece on here. Now, I actually didn't cut these out for the video, but I will show you here. As you can see, we have another piece that goes on top of this heart here, and you're gonna put that on at the end once we have this structure assembled to our base. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at our base. Now, before we assemble the base, there's one little piece here that looks like this, and what this is kind of a little reinforcement box that we're going to put inside of the structure just to kind of give it a little bit of additional support when we put our candle or whatever it is we decide to put on top of that little middle section. Okay, so we're just going to construct a box, and we're going to do that by taking and I'm just going to put glue on these two tabs here and get them glued to this piece here. Now this, no one's going to see this piece, okay, so if you're kind of messy with this, it's quite all right. Just make sure that it's structurally sound, and that's all we really need to focus on, is making sure that it just stays together. Okay, I'll go ahead and put glue on both of these tabs. Now I kind of breeze through this in these videos, but when I'm actually putting together my final version, I am taking a lot more time and being a lot more careful with my gluing, just being a lot more precise, and just making sure that I do as good of a job as possible when it comes to putting this together. Okay, so just kind of shove that in there And close up this box, and then if you want, you can just put a little dab of glue inside here. Again, this is just a structural piece. No one's going to see it, but we just kind of added it so that that candle that sits on top won't put a dent in the piece. Okay, so as long as it's nice and flat and perfect, that's all we need, and it'll hold itself together as long as you get it assembled like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and put together the structure that our little heart is going to sit on, and it's made up of these two pieces here. Okay, and first, as usual, you want to go ahead and fold everything at the score marks just to kind of get everything moving and grooving. It's just going to make the assembly that much easier, and everything's going to fall into place a lot easier if we get everything nice and bent at the score marks. So this process is fairly simple. All we're going to do is connect the neighboring tabs together. Okay, now you do want to take your time and be precise with this process. So we just put glue on that tab, and we're connecting it, following this angle here, to its neighbor. Okay. And then we're going to take glue and put it on this piece. And make sure that you don't glob it too much, because it will spill out when you apply pressure here. And just make sure that here you've got it nice and straight, and here you've got it nice and straight. Okay, take your time with it, and then go ahead and move on to the next piece. And you're just going to repeat this process until you have half of this thing assembled. Then we're going to repeat the same process with the other piece that looks exactly like this. So we'll have two sections of 4, and then we will join those two pieces together to form our base. And it's pretty simple. So I think once you get all your pieces cut out and the paper selected, I think you could get this together in a few hours. If you really want to get really detailed and precise and immaculate, it probably would put aside maybe 2 or 3 hours for assembly. You know, again, it depends on how beautiful you want to make it. And this, like I said, would be great. I was even thinking it'd be cool for a little girl's birthday. You could put like the big cupcake in the middle or something, and then when the party's over, she can kind of keep it in her room. And or again, I think this would be really cool at a wedding, at the head table. Or okay, so we are simply repeating this process with the other segment that looks just like the one we did, and I will show you again here, even though the process is fairly redundant. Just make sure that you're getting enough glue in there and giving it enough time to really stick. And I think you pretty much got the hang of this, so go ahead and get this done. And then when you have these two segments together, I will show you how to get everything joined up. So go ahead and finish this one, and then I'll meet up with you here in just a second. Okay, so we have these two segments here, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to join them together. Okay, and I'm going to begin by gluing the large tab up here because it has a lot more surface area. So when we do get this glued in place, we want to make sure that with these sections here, now that we're kind of joining this together, that we really give it some extra time to hold, because we are going to be kind of pushing this apart, and there's going to be a little bit of resistance, and we don't want this to come apart at this little bond here. So make sure that this really gets a grip before you move on to the next piece. Okay, and I'm going to slide that tab under. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put glue on this tab here. And I'm just going to slide that underneath and glue that down to the neighbor, just like that. Okay, and I would probably recommend that you give it a little more time than I just did to let that piece stick. And now you can see here, we've got that little triangle left. And we're gonna go ahead and put glue on that and get that glued into place, like so. Okay, and hold that in place until it's dry. Here we go. And we're just gonna repeat the same process on the other side. Okay, and we're gonna glue these tabs down. So I kind of, as you can see, I already have some glue on this piece here. I'm gonna put glue on this big tab. That was actually a boo-boo down here, so ignore that. Okay, so I'm just gonna close this up by putting glue on this last tab here. And then I do have that little tiny triangular tab at the bottom that I still need to put glue on, but this is pretty much it for the main structure here. So just go ahead and get that glued into place. Just make sure that everything is nice and aligned. Just like that. And as you can see, this is kind of what your structure should look like. And again, the pieces that I put together on video are never quite as precise as the ones I do when I'm really taking my time. So again, just make sure that you're really giving this your full attention and you're taking your time and get everything nicely glued into place and giving everything ample time to dry. Otherwise, it's not going to look as good. So just hold that in place until it gets a hold, and pretty much done with this thing. Just a few little details that we have to kind of iron out here, and this thing will be ready to go. So that's roughly what this piece should look like. Okay, now we're going to bring these tabs down. Okay, and what I recommend doing is actually putting the top of this on first, because that's going to be more visible than the bottom. So we're going to do that next. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is find these pieces here. You'll notice that one of these has the letter L on it. That is a liner piece that's going to go inside just to kind of strengthen the structure up a little bit more. Now what I want to do is start by putting glue on just one of these tabs so that we can get this piece anchored. Okay, and I'm just going to pop it right on there. Just kind of looking at the corners here, making sure that it's nice and aligned. And I'm going to give it a second to partially set. Okay, just like that. Just take your time with this. This kind of sets the tone for the rest of this. So make sure that's got a nice grip, and that's going to go like that. Okay, and then at this point, you can go ahead and put glue on the remaining tabs. Now I'm putting a nice little glob on the inside towards the point, and then I will put a nice fine line near the edge. And then if you've been watching the last few YouTube videos, you'll notice that I've been kind of using my finger a little bit to spread the glue out just to get nice clean seams. Just like that. Okay, then we can push this down and wait a few seconds for this to sort of set, and then you can always flip it over to push from the inside if you want to. I don't think I'm going to need to. Okay. And just kind of push things around until you get a nice clean edge. Okay. Then we can flip this over. You can go ahead and put glue on the inside here. glue your little liner inside. Okay. And now, this little structural box that we created, I'm going to go ahead and put glue. Now, you want it, you don't want it like this. You want it like this. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a good coat of glue on this because we want this to really stick and not move too much. And just pop it kind of in the middle there. Apply some pressure for just a second and then you can let it go. And all that's left to do is put your bottom on. And to put the bottom on, we're going to kind of repeat the process we used for the top, in that I want to anchor that piece down by doing one tab initially. Okay, and I'm going to spread that out really nicely. And I'm getting to the end of this bottle here, so it's kind of giving me a hard time. Okay, so let's get that anchored into place. Take a look at those corners here on this octagon and just make sure that you've got it nice and centered there. Looks like I do. And hold it into place while it sets. Okay, and we can go ahead and just like we did with the top, we'll put glue. Let me get my other glue bottle here. I'm going to put glue on the tabs and then we'll work our way out to the edges with a nice fine line. Okay. There we go. And just push that down. And you may have to kind of squish things in on some sides just to get that alignment perfect. And now, for those of you that watched the last video, I shared a little tip where sometimes it is kind of difficult to get clean seams on something like this where you're kind of enclosing an entire shape like this. Okay, so what you can do, if you don't get it right the first time, which not many people will, what I usually do is I'll grab a spatula, or I've been using a pick-me-up tool. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, so I've got my pick-me-up tool and it comes with this little removable piece. And what I usually do is just take a little bit of glue and just put it on my paper. And I will just use this tool to pick up some glue, make sure there's not any on the underside, and I will jam it in there and just spread that glue on the walls up on the top there, and then just push that down and hold it down until it really gets a good hold, because it is kind of difficult to do 8 sides at a time and get those clean seams. So you may need to go in and do a little cleanup work from time to time. Actually, the pick-me-up tool is good, but the spatula, like a Cricut spatula or a Silhouette spatula, it's a lot thinner. So for areas like this, you can really get it in there without having to even lift this up to get it in there. And that, you know, you see the pieces on the website, how perfect and pristine they are. Sometimes I do have to do that to achieve that level of accuracy. Okay, so anyway, so there is our structure, and at this point all that's left to do is embellish and attach the main part of this on there. So these pieces get glued here, obviously, so you're going to do that 8 times. Okay, we have these pieces that get glued to the bottom there. So you're going to do that 8 times. And now these pieces here are going to get glued here, but only after we actually attach our heart, which is what we're going to do now. So what you want to do, and the cool thing about this is it almost kind of sits on its own even before you glue it. So you want to spread these tabs open. These were not glued together. So you want to spread them out. Okay, just like that. And then you can go ahead and, so they're kind of going to be on opposite sides of each other, like that. Okay, and as you can see, it almost stays in place on its own. Okay, so all we're going to do, and the way I did this was I just began by taking one of these tabs, like this one here, and I just put glue on it, making sure that I got glue on the inner part here where the actual score line is, and I just glued it down. And I held it in place, so I just put glue on that tab there and just held it in place until it really got a grip. The first one might be the most challenging, but once you get that first one on there, it really stays in place, and then the rest of them just kind of fall into place a lot easier. Okay, so that one's pretty good. Now I'm going to go over on this side here, and I'm going to put glue on this tab here. Now I'm doing this with my left hand so that you can see it. I normally wouldn't be that sloppy with it, but you get the idea. So you get that tab glued into place right there. And just make sure you hold it in place while it dries. Okay. And then you can actually just repeat that process for all 4 of them to get all these glued into place. Okay. And once that's done, you just have these little panels that go on right there. And let me just do a couple more of these with you here so there's no confusion. So I'm just peeling this back, and I'm putting glue, getting a nice amount of glue on the inside, and then I'm focusing and making sure that I get enough glue around the perimeter as well, so we don't give it a chance to move. And I got a little glue on the outside there. Just ignore that. And just glue that down and hold it in place. And then just move on to this side here, put glue here, and glue that down. Okay, so I don't think I need to show you anymore. So once all these are in place, again, you have these panels here that you're going to glue down here. And all that's really left to do then, and I didn't actually cut these pieces out, but I will show you on our final version here. We've got these panels in place, and then there were also these panels here that go on top of that heart that we started with while we were assembling this piece here. So there's an additional panel there. And then on our final version, we added some nice heart rhinestones here, some pearls here, and pearls all over, pearls up at the top. And the Luminary candle actually put a nice bow on there, and do have, and actually I may just show you here how I did the bow. Okay, so there's the Luminary candle, and let me just show you how I did this. I kind of did it in a way that just made it a lot easier for me. I took and figured out how much ribbon I needed to just kind of cover this up. Okay, and I cut off just a little bit, so there's a little bit of slack there. And if you want, you can hot glue this together, or what I actually did, and it worked pretty well for me, is I just took a couple pop dots actually just to hold it in place, and it would not come off when it was done. So I think that worked out well. So let's see, where's my pattern? I'm just putting a couple pop dots on the end there. and getting it into the fabric. Okay, and I'm just gonna wrap this around. Put it flat on my table, it might make it easier. Just kind of make it nice and taut. And just really push that down, and this thing will not move at all. Okay, so there's the horizontal band. Okay, so I'm grabbing a little bit of string, and this is what we're going to use to actually tie this bow together. And I'm just popping it into my Bodabra and tucking it under so that it doesn't move. Okay, now you'll see here that on our final one here, I had a little tail. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put in some ribbon for the tail. Okay, and I'm gonna just, I don't know, give it about, it looks about 5 or 6 inches on each side for the tail. I'm gonna leave that like that. Okay, you can always trim it later, so it's always good to have more, because you can always cut, but you can't add more ribbon after the fact. And then I'm going to take my ribbon here, and I'm going to put just maybe an inch on the left just to kind of get it started. And now this ribbon actually, well, I guess it does have a heart pattern on both sides. I want the lighter pattern, so I'm actually going to put it in like this, because as I create my loops, I want the lighter pattern on the outer edge of each loop. Okay, so let me get a little extra ribbon out. And as you can see, as I fold this over, this lighter colored ribbon is what's showing, which is what I want, or the lighter colored heart, I should say. Okay, so the idea is when you're creating this ribbon, you can see on this side here, we've got the lighter colored hearts, but in order to maintain that on the other side, we got to kind of twist it. Okay, so like that. Okay, and again, you need to kind of twist that as well. Okay, so we've got one loop here, one loop here. We've got a tail and a tail. And this last segment here is going to make up the last 2 little loops. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Let's make sure that we have enough. I'm going to cut it about there. Okay, so I'm going to slide that through, actually like this. And this last piece, we're actually going to tuck underneath itself. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pop it in like that. Just making sure that I've got my lighter side, or my lighter pattern right there on top, and I do. Okay, so we've got one loop here, one loop here, one here, and one here. It's all the light pattern. That looks great. You can take this little tool and pop it in the center to really push that ribbon down and hold it in place. And then grab your string, lift this up, and give it a double knot. Okay. And then I actually just took and hot glued this to that little ribbon that I already put around the candle. Okay, so once you have the ribbon how you want it, because we have a little heart that we cut out of paper, it doesn't matter what color string you use to kind of hold this together, because that's all going to be hidden. So I'm just going to trim that off. Okay, now I'm actually going to pop that off of my original. Now, once your ribbon's out, you want to go ahead and just kind of work the bow and style it. This is a wired ribbon, so depending on how you finesse it, it's going to determine how your final ribbon looks. And as you can see, I've got the little tail there. Okay, now obviously that tail is way too long, so I'm going to trim it a little bit. Okay, and then you can kind of give it that little V cut to make the tail look like that. Okay, so there's my ribbon. There's my bow, I should say. And then you can just hot glue that little heart right to the center, and there you go. And then you can just hot glue that right to your candle, and voila. So that's pretty much it for the assembly of our Valentine centerpiece. Hope you guys had fun. Hope yours came out just as nice, if not better, than our version, and would love to see your version and your ideas on how to use the centerpiece. So definitely share photos with us on our Facebook page or email us using the contact form on our website. Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.